It's been a little while. um, I know by now you all have seen the video, probably, of the murder of Sonya Massey and many people's reactions to what happened to her. If you didn't watch it, I understand why. It was atrocious. It takes a long time to speak about these things sometimes. I know a lot of other people react quickly. I'm not one of those types of people that always reacts quickly to things. But anyway, I don't want to go into deep analysis, although I have brought some papers. Because when I saw the video of the shooting, the first thing that I felt was sadness. I felt sad for her because she called out for help and met death instead. It's raining. I hope you guys don't hear too much rain. I don't know if that would be annoying or if it would be welcoming. I wanted to use an extended metaphor to speak about what happened to Sonya Massey. And like I said, if you didn't watch the video, I understand why. And what happened was she called out for help to a police officer, and he came to her house. He was aggressive. He spoke aggressively towards her when he entered her house. Then he demanded ID when he could have just de-escalated the situation by leaving her house, once he said he had already walked the perimeter of her house. And then, instead of leaving, he told her to go turn off a pot of water that was on her stove. And she rebuked him in the name of Jesus. That's what she did. She said that. And he didn't like that. And he said he was going to shoot her in the face, and then he proceeded to shoot her in the face. And she died. So anyway, he could have de-escalated the situation when he said he had already walked the perimeter and there was nothing to be found. And he could have also de-escalated the situation, if we're going to be honest, when she was sitting down in the chair, I believe, looking for her ID. And because there were two police officers, one of them could have walked over and turned off the stove. There were two police officers, and there were 4 hands between the two of them. One of those hands could have gone to turn off the stove, since it was so threatening to them. But they chose not to do that, because they did not want to de-escalate the situation, because they wanted to shoot a black woman instead, that this white man was agitated with, who happened to be posing as a police officer that would help her. I say posing because, yes, he was employed, but people who wear uniforms don't necessarily come to help you, as we can see from this example and many other examples in America. Anyway, the metaphor I want to use is an extended metaphor. When I was younger, in my teens, I played 3 instruments. I played the saxophone, the piano, and I played the flute. That was my main instrument. And when I was in high school, I traveled a lot with a band outside of my school. It was a Latin jazz band. I wanted to be the next Dave Valentine. In my mind, that's what I thought I was going to be. But no, we played a lot of gigs in the local area and in New York, and then we got invited to Cuba by Chucho Valdez. And when I was there, I played at the embassy, and I played at their cultural center, and I played several other places. It was a great experience for me. And not just because of the music, but to see how other people can live. I had been out of the country before, but that was the place that made me feel my humanity. Sorry, that's a loud car. It made me feel my humanity more than ever, even though I had already been through a lot of things in my life prior to playing my music. Anyway, so when I was in Cuba, I got to see how government affects the people more than I really saw it around me here in the United States. I got to see so many Cubans that were different colors, different ethnicities. They all spoke Spanish, but they looked different and they got along. And I got to see poverty that I had known myself, but not as bad as this was. Now, not all parts of Cuba are like this. I was in Havana, but you could see it. You could see it. The people treated me wonderfully. I loved, I don't play anymore, but I loved Latin jazz. I love Afro-Caribbean music. And that was a good part of my life. I also played classical music, and I played marching band music and dansons and all kinds of other things. And what I learned from that is that obviously you have to work together. You have to work together or else you don't get the song, do you? The song comes out all messed up. And there was this running joke. I don't know if people say it anymore, but it was a joke back in the day. Sometimes musicians, when they get together, especially when they're cocky and they're arrogant, and they're young, they might say, well, who's really vital to this band? And, you know, often the drummers, they say they are because they hold the beat. And then sometimes, it's the horn section. My main instrument was the flute. So, yeah, the woodwinds, they think they're important. And then if you're in the orchestra, sometimes the conductor will say, well, obviously it's me. And I was listening to some music the other day, and then I was thinking about the music, and I was thinking about the music too, while I was thinking about Sonya Massey. And for some reason, those two things intertwined. Not just because it's so hard to comprehend how a country could be the age ours is, and we still have so much hatred. I was thinking about, I guess, better moments when I saw people get along no matter what they look like. And then I was thinking about, the joke about how the conductor thought he drove the music, and then the drummers, and then it came to me that it was the score. It was the score of music. It was the composition. And then it made me think of the score in terms of politics and law, and how the score is our system. and how no matter how good of a conductor is, and no matter how good an instrumentalist is, if the score is bad, the score is bad. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be penciled out. Things need to be added to it. And we're not doing that in this country. Sorry guys, I keep having to take a break because the weather's so bad it keeps raining. The weather is so bad. It's just raining, and I'm trying to get through this video so I don't have to do it inside. Anyway, where inside is loud. Anyway, where was I? Yes, I think I was talking about the score. And how, like in music, if you're not improving, which I hope our government is not doing. I hope we're not in an improv session. I hope that we have a score of music that could be adjusted, and not just through lip service, but from the way that Sonya Massey was shot. It looks like that's what we have. Now, I know that there are people out there, and believe me, I'm very aware of who's saying what, and who's saying nothing, and who's staying so loyal to a party because they don't want to usher the people this way, and they don't want to usher the people that way, so they will stay quiet when now is the time to speak. And not just speak to get clicks for a video. Not speak just because you're going to get your daily bread from YouTube or from any platform you're on, okay? But speak because what happened to her was wrong, and it was caused because we have racial disparity in our police officer ranks. That is a fact. Now, I know there are people that want to argue with that. So what I did is I went and looked up some facts. Because I know that this is not the place where you should just come out here on a platform and accuse people of being political tools without bringing facts. That's not a good thing to do. Or just come out here and attack people's intelligence. Attack people's intelligence or how much education they lack. I guess that's the ad hominem attack, where you make somebody feel inferior to yourself, so then you can automatically, through defaults, be correct. You can be correct, though you brought no facts. So anyway, I spent a little time the other day going through a couple of things. And what I want to say is that there are some people out there that believe that even though Sonya Massey got shot in her head by a white police officer that was not threatened by her at all. And I say that because, as I have already said, he could have turned the pot of water off himself. He already welcomed himself into her house. Even though she was not the one doing anything wrong, she asked for help. So he welcomed himself in. He wanted to see her ID. Then he claimed that, again, that there was a pot of water, and that was going to be his excuse to justify the threat that he felt in his open fire. When we know that while one police officer spoke to her, the other one could have turned off the water that posed such a threat. So then you have to ask, well, why did he feel compelled to shoot her in the face after he said he was going to do it? And asking that question after she's dead, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's no time that's supposed to be labeled as appropriate to ask that question. It's not like you can put humanity on pause. It's not like the family should say, you know what, let's wait. Let's wait because we don't want to be used by Trump or Kamala Harris the wrong way, either camp. So let our family sit in the morgue and then talk about how this white man shot our black daughter in the face, because that's the appropriate thing to do, because we don't want to ruin an election. Who does something like that? You know who does something like that. Those are people that play games. Those are people that tell you not to play games as they are playing the game. Okay? Anyway, the reason why I will talk about police brutality whenever I feel like it, and however I feel like it, and not be persuaded by anybody else's opinion, is because, like I said, the facts are the facts. So I brought some articles. This first article is from April 12th, 2019 by Janae Addison. It's titled How Kamala Harris' Record on Police Body Cameras Fits into the 2020 Debate. This is when she was running. That was in 2020. The second article is in 2020 also. It says the research is clear. White people are not more likely than black people to be killed by police. That's by Ian Thompson. And it was an interview with a man named Dr. Miller, a professor of health sciences. He's an expert in injury and violence prevention. Then there's an article here called 2023. This is an interesting one. Law enforcement fatalities. Reports reveal law enforcement deaths dropped. You guys have to read this. Okay? And then the last article, the one before that was, no, I missed one. The second one is actually Donald Trump's Executive Order 13929. So I'm not going to sit here and read all these things. See, they're thick, okay? But what I will say, for all of you guys out there and girls that are concerned about, oh no, if I side with this place, I'm going against this party. If I side with this place, I'm going against that party. Oh, what do I do? Oh, should I not have concern? Should I not reach into my soul and feel my own humanity and speak about it? That's what the right thing is to do. That's what humans do, right? Should I deny myself my speech to make other people happy? Listen, Kamala Harris, when she was an attorney general, and we will talk about both. So if you want to cut the video off here, that's fine. And then not get the data that would support what I'm going to say from both parties, then that's on you. I think that if you do something like that, you should reflect on what that means about yourself, okay? But anyway, when Kamala Harris was an attorney general, okay, here's the article, guys. This is by PBS News.org, 2019. Okay, when she was an attorney general, it says that her California Department of Justice in 2015 became the first statewide agency in the country to adopt a body camera program. And here's the issue. They wanted to expand that program, okay? Because it was working well. She said, I, as a general matter, believe that we should invest in the ability of law enforcement leaders in specific regions and with their departments to use their discretion to figure out what technology they are going to adopt. Okay? Based on needs that they have and resources that they have. So they were trying to pass legislation to get everybody to have body cameras on. But in the end, what she did was she said that the state should not get involved in implementing the policy, okay? And then they cited also issues of money and funding, which is hilarious. Because if you can fund wars to go kill other people, but you can't fund police departments nationwide to save people, then what does that say about you? Right? She didn't want to get involved. Although she said she was in favor of all police wearing body cameras. And note that the man that shot Sonya Massey, I forget what his name was. Was it Sean Grayson? I don't remember. He turned his off, conveniently. He turned his off, and we know why he did that. So anyway, so we have Kamala Harris not supporting body cameras. She is in lip service. But then when it went time to really try to pass bills, enact bills that would implement the use of them, she vacated that idea. Okay, so now we're going to go to the other great politician, Donald Trump, right? So when he was in office, I think that George Floyd had died, yes, and there was a lot of rioting, there was a lot of protesting, as there should have been, and situations escalated, and so he came up with Executive Order 13929 in response to the police brutality that was going on against Black people, okay? And I'm telling you, I read this thing. And here it is. There it is, okay? Several pages. And, it's it's all BS, okay? Because the first section goes on to talk about how the Constitution is supposed to protect all of us, right? And then the section 2 goes on to certification and credentialing. And then section 3, information sharing, and how the Attorney General shall create a database. Okay? Then section 4, mental health, homelessness, and addiction. And it is the policy of the United States to promote the use of appropriate social services as the primary, we know what that means. It means first, response to individuals who suffer from mental health. I did not see that officer that night using appropriate social services as a primary response. I saw him using force and violence and brutality. That was his primary response. Okay? Now, what was interesting about this? I mean, you literally could have had Charlie Brown reading this nonsense. That he basically does the same thing as Kamala Harris. So he comes out with this Executive Order 13929. In Section 2, Part B says the Attorney General shall, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, allocate Department of Justice discretionary grant funding only, circle that word, only, to those state and local law enforcement agencies that have sought or are in the process of seeking appropriate credentials from a reputable independent credentialing body certified by the Attorney General. Why this is important amongst the 5 pages is that section tells you that that Department of Justice funds can only go to states and local law enforcement that seek or are seeking appropriate credentials in order to get the money, in order to fund, I guess, what they think would be body cameras, social services, and things that would improve police officers' ways or tactics of, their one-on-one situations with the public. However, what is interesting, as I said, is that word only. They'll give the money only to the people that seek it. Well, I want to reference the Bible. I don't remember which, I think it's Matthew, but I could be wrong, where it says, if you seek, you shall find. If you seek, you shall find. What does that mean? If you don't seek, you don't find, okay? meaning that Trump's executive order is BS. If the police, the local police, if the states don't want to seek funding, then that's a way out. That is a loophole for them not to have to do anything. And that's exactly what they did. So then now let's go over this. Kamala Harris, who through her mouth said that she supported body cams at one time because she recognized that there was disproportionate amount of black people dying due to police violence. But then the law was never enacted. Then go to Donald Trump. He says, yes, people are dying, black people are dying. He didn't want to fully commit to the idea it was because white men in uniform just want to shoot black people. But he said, yeah, they're dying. We got to get to the bottom of this. I'll pass this law. But then the law is still in the hands of the people that are doing the shooting. Both of them, Kamala Harris said, in the discretion of the agencies, and Donald Trump said to those who seek or are in the process of seeking, but there's no mandate stated that they should seek, right? What does that tell you guys? What does that tell you guys? It means that on this policy, when it comes to police reform, that they're both full of crap. That's what it is. They both are. Okay? Now, for those who say that black people do not die disproportionately to police violence than white people, there was a study done by, like I said, Dr. Miller. Okay? The article is called Northeastern Global News 71. It was made in July 16th, 2020. It follows Donald Trump's I don't know what you want to call it, his pseudo-executive order. Okay? Northeastern professor Matt Miller says that Trump's response was a grotesque misdirection that fails to account for the fact that black people are killed by police at a higher rate than white people. Okay? He said, and listen clearly, because this is an expert in injury and violence prevention. Not only that, the same rhetoric that Donald Trump was using, and that Kamala Harris might not use out of her mouth, but in her actions and her lack of actions she uses, is the same that I hear on YouTube with people who don't want to commit. They don't want to commit to the idea that Sonya Massey was killed because she was a black woman that was unarmed. And she was killed by a white man that was angry at black people. Okay? And she was killed by a white man that could have left the situation. Okay? And that lied about it afterwards. No. Is there a way to fully prove that? We'll have to see what the lawyers can do, right? I will say this, though, that there is a thing called verbal language, and then there is a thing called nonverbal language. Okay? She was listening to his nonverbal language when she rebuked him. Okay? And that's what triggered him. She knew what he was, and she didn't want him to be any closer or any longer to her in that house. And what he should have done was taken his ass out of the house. That's what he should have done. But he wanted to abuse somebody. He wanted to abuse a black person, and he thought that he could get away with it. That's why he didn't turn his body cam on, okay? But for people who, want to still not believe, this man says that Donald Trump, and I'm going to go further and say people that speak like this, not just Donald Trump, is using the truth to tell a lie, Miller says of Trump, or at the very least to mislead, which in either case shows an indifference to the critical question. The critical question is not, oh no, a black person died. What are politicians going to do with this information? Are they going to use it to instigate, persuade voters to vote one way? That is not the critical question. The critical question is, why are black people still dying at the hands of law enforcement? Okay? Overall, close to 1,000 people are shot to death by police officers in the U.S. every year, according to a database maintained by the Washington Post. It is true that a majority of those victims are white people. That's only because there are so many more white people than there are black people in our country. Although black people represented 12% of the population in the states that we studied, they made up 25% of the deaths. By comparison, white people represented 62% of the population and made up 54% of the deaths in the encounters with police. Instead of approaching the study with a point of view to be proved or disproved, Miller and his fellow researchers set out on a fact-finding mission. The study found that the racial disparity was even more pronounced in those cases, in the victims that were unarmed and offered minimal to no threat to police. That's Sonya Massey. Okay? In those specific cases, the numbers rose for black people. They made up 36% of the deaths. Okay? So when people are saying, so white people are dying too. Okay, you're right, they are. But we're looking at proportions here. Okay? We're not just counting the people, we're looking at how many black people are dying by police officers. How many white people are dying by police officers? How many of them are unarmed? How many of them are armed? How many black people compared to their population? Compared to the population as a whole? And then we do that also with white people. Okay? And as you can see, 12% of the population in the states we studied made up 25% of the police shootings. Whereas white people represented 62%, but they made up 54% of the deaths. Smaller population of black people, higher deaths. Those are the facts, whether you like them or not. Those are the facts. The other thing I found was something interesting. It was one more article, you guys, if you bear with me. Okay, this is the article that really interested me the most. Well, I won't say the most, but it says a lot. Okay, this article is from the Law Enforcement Fatalities Report. Okay, the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund released their 2023 year-end fatality report. This is a fatality report for the police officers. Okay. All right, you guys are going to love this. The number of law enforcement professionals nationwide who died in the line of duty in 2023 decreased by 39%. Did you all hear what I just said? It decreased by 39%. Now, I also looked up, basically, an estimate of how many police officers. And when they say police officers, they count that as, let me tell you, according to their own data, federal, state, county, municipal, military, tribal, campus officers, 800,000. So there are about 800,000 law enforcement officers, police officers in America. Okay? the 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 death count for dying in the line of duty in 2023 decreased. It decreased compared to the previous year. The number shows that 136 officers died. Do you hear me? 136 officers out of 800,000, which we know is almost a million. Okay? Now, I'm not going to minimize anybody's death, although I know that there are a lot of people out here who like to do that. They like to do that to black people. They like to minimize their death, especially when they die at the hands of white police officers or just crazy white racist people. They like to minimize that because they don't want the truth to be revealed. Okay? And the truth is, firearms fatalities claim the lives of 47 officers. You guys, out of the 136, 47 officers died from firearm use. Okay? And let me tell you that they even broke it down. Okay? Here you go. Do you see that? They broke it down. 9 were attempting to make an arrest, 7 domestic disturbance, 5 were ambushed. We go, and we see that 2 of the 47 were investigating disturbance calls. 2 officers in the whole year of 2023 died from gunshots. Okay? 37 died in traffic-related fatalities, and then 52 died in other causes, which would be things like falling objects, drowning, beaten to death, stabbed. Okay, so what does this tell you, you guys? If 47 officers died in 2023, but they keep saying that they feel so threatened. Threatened by what? Now, if your argument to me is, oh, but those 47, that's a lot compared to the 800,000. But the numbers of civilians dying and the proportions of the black civilians dying is higher than your police officers dying. And not only that, you had a decrease of 39% fatalities. What is that saying? It's saying this threat that the threat that you fear, the threat that you keep promoting has no rationale. So then what is that? You tell me that. If the numbers show that your fatalities went down, but civilian fatalities went up, and then we find out that even the way, the mannerism into which you are dying as police officers, more of them come from the other causes than from firearms. What does that mean? Who is the bigger threat? Who's the bigger threat to black people? You all, this is the article. I think we need to stop listening to nonsense. I think we know the truth. And I think that we need to believe it when it's right in front of us. And believe it when we feel it. There have been instances in my own life when I have been riding with my husband, okay? And I was stopped. We were stopped by police officers. I'm not going to get into it right now. In those instances, I will say that there was more nonverbal language that was rooted in hatred, that was spoken to me, than the feeling of peace and safety and professionalism. She shouldn't die in vain and then pushed to the side because her death is now supposedly being used by politicians, right? She died. It wasn't her fault. And she should be honored. And we should call it what it is. What was the cause of her death? Humanity comes before politics, does it not? If you answered that question in the opposite way, then it is probably you who's the manipulative one. Not the other people. And if they are too, it doesn't still change the fact that people can mourn the way they want and when they want. And that mourning is a natural thing. And it's not just brought on by election year. Okay? And her own death wasn't caused because it's election year. It was caused because we have racist people in law enforcement. We have racist people that have mental health issues, sometimes even more than the people that they're supposed to be helping that have the mental health issues, supposedly. That is the reality. That police officer had more mental issues and more hatred than that woman that he claimed had the mental issues. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. The projection. You can't make up the semantic manipulation. You can't make up the deviation tactics that people use. Oh, gosh. Anyway, back to the extended metaphor. The score is the system. Our song. You can replace the conductor. You can replace the instrumentalists. It doesn't matter. If the music is the same, they'll be playing the same song. That's what we're doing. You have to have real change. It has to be written on paper, just like the way the Constitution was. It has to be enforced by people that are not hateful, that are not racist, that are not evil. And then maybe we can mourn whenever we want to and not feel like it'll be a bad political move. I'm sorry. I'm going to always honor my heart before I honor people that don't care about it. Anyway, I hope you guys are well. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.